I don't know if I'm necessarily buying into anything, but if you're going to scoreboard watch when the Toronto Blue Jays are leading that game early last night 2-0 over the Tampa Bay Rays, and you see Tampa rally to knock off the Blue Jays, and the Yankees right now trailing Toronto by a half game for that second wild card spot. They're a game and a half behind the Boston Red Sox for that number one wild card spot in the American League. And you look at where this Yankee team is. Torres responded last night. Gary Sanchez responded last night. The bullpen did their job. It's a bad Texas team. I get it's not a team that's going to go out there and win a World Series this year, but this team has been losing to bad teams as well. So you got to give them credit for being able to respond after getting utterly, as Aaron Boone said, they got embarrassed. The last two games of that Cleveland series, getting outscored 22-4.
Listen, nice rebound game from the Yankees after getting shellacked by Cleveland in the last two games of that series. So you like to see it. Again, Texas is not super competitive this year. But here's one thing that I want to kind of talk about with the Yankee fans. And that is the idea that somehow if the Yankees miss the playoffs this year, it will be like a good thing overall for the Yankees because it means that there's going to be some kind of house cleaning coming. It's not happening. To not root for the Yankees to make the playoffs this year, Moose, to me makes absolutely no sense. Do you think that after 28 seasons in a row with the Yankees having a winning record and Brian Cashman being the general manager for the last 20 plus, do you think that one season where they don't make the playoffs, where, yes, the expectations were high, but if they miss the playoffs this year, do you think that all of a sudden Brian Cashman's going to find himself out on the street? I think Yankee fans are living in a bit of some Yankee fans, not all, some Yankee fans are living in a little bit of a delusion, and a fantasy here that if somehow the Yankees fall short of the postseason, then Cashman is gone and Boone is gone and all of their problems are going to be fixed here. I think that's crazy. The Yankees aren't going to do that. And so for me, I realize because we've been taking calls on this for a while now and talking to Yankee fans, there are a lot that do not want the team to make the postseason, thinking it's going to trigger something much bigger. I don't see that happening. The Yankees have got to make the postseason now. You got another one tonight against Texas, Jordan Montgomery, and then and then a third against Texas, and then the schedule's really going to kick in here. This is you should be rooting for them to make the postseason. Because I don't think the changes that some Yankee fans think are coming if they miss the postseason, I don't think those changes are coming.
I don't know. About Cashman. I don't think is going anywhere. I don't know about Boone.
But that would be the big one. Cashman, I'm talking about. People who think this team is not built correctly.
I think the ire now is toward Boone. And it was, a lot of people gave Cashman a lot of credit for what he did at the MLB trade deadline.
Sure.
But don't you get a sense, Maggie, right now the ire is the Yankee fan wants their pound of flesh. They want Aaron Boone out.
Okay.
They're tired of...
Who's the next guy coming in and how different is he going to be from Aaron Boone?
I don't know, but they got rid of Joe Girardi and no one, they got rid of Joe Girardi because they felt like they needed a change, right? They needed a change in the room. They needed a change in the culture. They needed a change in the communication, everything that Joe Girardi might be, manages a little tight. Kind of leads to an intensity in the room. All of those things, kind of a clearing of the air, and in steps Aaron Boone. And I think that a lot of Yankee fans will look at Aaron Boone and say, not a good manager. Not particularly, doesn't put this team in a great advantageous position. When you hear Aaron Boone tell you that the compete level is there after they, lose 11-1, 11-3, and saying that the intensity is there or the intention is there and the compete level is there, that makes little to no sense. And I think it bothers a lot of Yankee fans that I know of. I think the Yankee fan has drawn their eye more toward Boone than they have toward right now Brian Cashman. Because I don't think Cashman's got a year left on his deal. Boone's a lame duck manager.
Yeah, but I guess my thing about that is I think a lot of Yankee fans are looking at Brian Cashman, and they are looking at Boone, yes, definitely, because he's the one who has to wear it every single day because he's the manager of the team. But I think they're also looking at Cashman and thinking, that somehow Hal Steinbrenner, if they don't make the postseason, is going to all of a sudden be like, we got to change everything. We got to bring in Theo, whatever it is, right? Like Theo now out there is just this big sort of matzo ball hanging out there. But it's like, do you think the next manager is going to be the guy who doesn't put process over results? Do you think that the manager is going to be the next guy? Why? Is he going to publicly air out the players maybe more than Aaron Boone? Is he going to get them not to hit into double plays? I just wonder who that next person is going to be. Sure, it could be just a change of message, all of that stuff. It's fair. You can change managers. But to not root for the Yankees to make the postseason or to think, if they fall short, then it's going to look at this, turn into this real come to Jesus, look in the mirror moment for the Yankees. I just don't see that big reaction happening if they miss the playoffs.
But I think for the Yankee fan, they're stuck in the crosshairs here because you want your team to be successful, but you realize this team's not good enough.
Well, and it hasn't been an enjoyable season to watch.
Well, the team's not winning anything this year. Let's be honest. They're not winning a World Series this year. They make it to the playoffs. They're not going anywhere. You've seen too much of this downplay, downturn of performance. And mind you, I mean, when the Yankees are playing bad, they're still, what is it, the 29th straight year they finished above 500. So they've had a winning record. So they don't really bottom out. But I think realistically, you look at it where Yankee fans say, well, we know how this is going to end. Whether it be in the wild card game, if they make it to the wild card game, whether it be in the divisional series, this team doesn't have the earmarks of making a deep postseason run. Cole hasn't been great as of late. I know they're getting Severino back. What exactly is Severino's role going to be with this team? Domingo Germán, and Jameson Taillon, they're working their way back to this Yankee team as well. But in the end, what does it really mean? Because the offense has been so kind of helter-skelter when, the Yankees are in death matches with the Baltimore Orioles to try and hold on and win games, and the Toronto Blue Jays are beating them 22-7 and scoring 44 runs over the course of a 3-game series. So there is if you open up your eyes, you look at it, they're not great. They're not a great baseball team. They might be good enough to make the playoffs, and that might buy Aaron Boone another year, maybe buys Aaron Boone another year or two with a new contract after this season. But I think the Yankee fan is frustrated saying, well, they're rooting against them because holding out hope, maybe not so much with Cashman, but more so a case of Boone where if this team does fall short, maybe it's a humbling enough that change does come.
Do you think that making it to the ALDS and say, doesn't matter, you losing 5, losing 4, whatever, it doesn't matter, but you make the wild card game, you win it, you make it to the ALDS. Do you think that's enough to save Aaron Boone if the organization feels like they need to make a change?
There might be a case where Aaron Boone comes back if they
no
don't make
matter
the
what.
Playoffs.
Well, that's a whole other thing.
But I do.
Because then you're rooting for them not to make the playoffs and you're getting nothing that you wanted. Right?
I get it. But I think there's a possibility that is in the cards. I mean, I think it would be a tough sell to the fan base, but we know that Cashman's a big Aaron Boone believer. So I wouldn't tell you that without a doubt that this team doesn't make the playoffs, that Aaron Boone is out as manager. So I think there's a lot on the table when you look at it because of the relationship and the belief that Cashman has in Aaron Boone. But
what's his hire?
Right. I think the Yankee fan is frustrated. I do. And I get it. Watching a team, the only time they were really watchable and enjoyable was when they went on that 30-10 stretch and they started to resemble the team, the expectations ever. Mind you, this is a group that they were the favorite in the American League to get to the World Series. Now they're scratching and clawing just to be a wild card spot in the American League. They've played a lot of bad baseball. You've had a lot of defensive miscues, bad managerial decisions, bad situational hitting, overall downturn of performance of a lot of guys in that lineup like DJ LeMahieu. Clint Frazier was supposed to be your left fielder. He's been out and has been hurt. Miguel Andujar, you look at Aaron Hicks hurt once again. The only guys that have been there really all season long have been Judge. And for the most part, not all season, but Giancarlo Stanton's been great.
No, they've been good.
Aaron Judge and those two guys have been really, really good. So you can look at guys in that lineup that have not been particularly good this year. But to get the real change, I think the Yankees probably needed to be humbled even a little bit more than just missing the playoffs. Like they needed to be where we're sitting here, Maggie, on this Tuesday midday. The Yankees have got no realistic shot to make the playoffs. They're playing out the string. And you're saying, well, what big-time changes are coming to this group?
See, and that's my point, though, right? Like, to root for them to not make the postseason, I don't think that makes sense as a fan. You're right there. Granted, this hasn't been a particularly enjoyable season to watch, but you are right there. And I don't think missing the playoffs is going to trigger the kind of effect that the Yankee fan is hoping. I think they're going to be more patient. We don't even know if Boone, you're right, could come back, could get a 2-year deal, even if they do miss the postseason. And, the thing is about that, what was it, the 35-11 or 36-11 stretch? Let's not forget, even that stretch came with those gut punch losses. It really was the 13-game win streak that was obviously, because they kept winning, was so fun. But even in that streak where they were winning series, it was gut punches in Iowa, gut punches in Houston. Gut punches all over the place. Bad losses for the Yankees. Gut punch against the Mets. I mean, bad losses where you were more focused on what the heck is going on with Aroldis Chapman, what is going on with the rest of the rotation, da-da-da. And of course, the offense. They couldn't stop hitting into double plays and all of that. So it just, that part of it to me doesn't make sense. If you're sitting here on the doorstep, you still have 2 weeks to go. The Yankees will finally get an off day on Thursday. Boy, do they need that. You still have a chance. Why would you root for them not to make it? Because you know those wholesale changes are not going to come in one off.
To avoid the inevitable?
Yeah, but is that really what a Yankee fan's about? I feel like the Yankee fan is more about just get us in. Get us in and then see what we can do.
Well, but the Yankee fan for years under George Steinbrenner was sold that it's a failure if you don't win a World Series. That has changed.
Well, baseball's changed a lot since George was making those kind of decrees.
But that's the way he believed it. I mean, from till the day he died. I mean, that is what he believed. That is, if he was still owning the team right now and was still alive, walking God's green earth, he would still be echoing those sentiments as well. That has changed for the Yankees. The Yankees look at a successful year of making Brian Cashman has talked about the idea of build for the regular season and you hope for the best in the postseason. So if I'm going to go on that logic, then if you're a Yankee fan and you look at this group and say, well, I don't really believe that this is a championship caliber team because they've really showed me outside of a 40-game blip, no real signs of being that caliber of a team as compared to, say, what the Rays are doing, the Stros, the Dodgers, the San Francisco Giants. You look at the upper echelon teams across all of Major League Baseball. So the Yankees would then deem it a successful year for everything that they have been through just for the fact that, you know what, we made the playoffs. Well, no. If I'm a fan of the team, and I'm not saying I'm doing this, but I can understand a lot of Yankee fans that do and looking at this group and say, well, maybe the only way for this group right now to get humbled is not to make the playoffs. That it is not the Yankee way, that it's not your God-given right to be in the postseason.
Right.
Because then the Yankees would deem it as a success because of Brian Cashman's basically told you so.
But so what's so interesting about that, though, is that everything you've heard from the Yankees, players, manager, everything from this year has been, we believe in our approach. They believe in their approach. I mean, you have Garrett Cole, after his clunker start on Monday saying, I felt super confident going into this game. Or sorry, was it Sunday? I felt super confident going into this game. My process was right. I was good all week, and then I came out and got shelled. What do you want me to do about it? I'll try to do better the next time. Aaron Judge has talked about that, our approach. It's not like guys aren't working hard. That's what they keep telling you. So I don't think that humbling is necessarily coming. I'm wondering if you look at it as, build for the regular season, crapshoot in the postseason, whether you love that philosophy or think it's realistic or you hate it. The fact is get the Yankees in, and maybe they are on the positive side of the crapshoot,
Well, does this team look like that? But I'd go back to the process idea. Do you think after what he said on Sunday, after feeling good and then having the negative results, I would imagine then you'd have to look back at your process and realize, well, the results didn't match how good I felt.
Right, but
and then there was something wrong with what I was doing or how I tried to attack that Cleveland lineup. So you can't. This is where, we kind of get in kind of the weeds a little bit about process and results. See, I'm more of results-oriented than I am when you look at the process, because you could defend it and say, well, I did all the necessary work. Well, the results didn't follow, or they should follow. Well, if the results don't continue to follow, then there's something wrong with your process. So that's the criticism I had at Hal Steinbrenner right around the 4th of July, saying our process in evaluating players is dead on correct. The lean that they've put on the analytics department in evaluating the players, the talk and the conversation where they've been too right-handed oriented and they adjust at the MLB trade deadline by adding Gallo and Rizzo. So there have been signs here that you've seen a humbling of this organization a little bit. The Yankees, the one I grew up rooting for, a humbling of this organization, that not everything that they've done here has been on point. Not every decision that they've made here has been on point. So if you're a fan right now and you look at it and say, listen, I root for the Yankees. Last night was a good night. I don't root for them to lose.
Right.
I don't. So I'm not rooting for them to lose last night. I'm rooting for them to win. I was happy that the Tampa Bay Rays beat the Toronto Blue Jays. I'm not that percentage of Yankee fan that is rooting for this team to fail. But I understand
where they're coming from.
Where you're coming from.
Okay.
I understand the Yankee fan that is frustrated, and I understand wanting to see change within this organization and saying it's not good enough. We are held to a higher standard. The Yankees are held to a higher standard as compared to other teams in Major League Baseball. Where has that gone?
Right. So where I think that where I'd push back a little is like, I think that Garrett Cole, we'll go back to that for a second. If Garrett Cole has a bad outing, I have no doubt that he gets back into, the lab or whatever and looks at film and dissects what happened and what went wrong. But I think that he and the Yankees will also say, you're a Cy Young contender in the American League. More has gone right for you this season than has gone wrong for you, even adding in the whole foreign substance thing and having to change up whatever he had to change up midseason with not being able to use whatever he might have been using, yada, yada, yada. I think they'll say more has gone right for you than gone wrong. This could be a blip. There are more outings we can point to with Garrett Cole that you looked amazing than this bad one against the Cleveland Indians. And so how much do you really want to change there? I think the Yankees have shown, even Cashman, yes, they added left-handed hitting at the trade deadline because it was cost neutral for them, but they added left-handed hitting at the trade deadline. But how much data did they need before they were able to make that decision? They don't do things here like on a small sample size. And also they have a lot of patience. So I just don't think that missing the playoffs is going to lead to what some Yankee fans hope, which is really big wholesale changes starting with Brian Cashman. 877-337-6666. They're still in a fight here. They're in a fight.
They're in a fight. We've watched Cole all season long. He's not a Cy Young winner.
He's right there with Robbie Ray, who didn't have a great outing last night.
He did not have a great outing last night. I get it. He's not. Let's be honest. He's not. Two of his last
he
three,
might win it this year.
He might. I don't look at him as being that. I just don't. I mean, personally, I don't. I think Robbie Ray deserves it more than Garrett Cole. Like, two of his last three starts, they need him against Toronto. He was atrocious. They need him Sunday against Cleveland. He was god-awful. Like, that does come into a factor. It does come into a factor, the timing. I understand they're paying him a ton of money, so he's going to have those double-digit strikeouts. He's got 231 Ks. His ERA is over 3. I get it. I still like wins. I know a lot of people don't. I still put a factor into wins. If you're asking me, I don't have a vote. Would I vote for Garrett Cole to be the Cy Young Award winner in the American League? I haven't watched him every single start. I would not. And, he can go back to the lab all he wants. They needed him on Sunday against a team that was playing for nothing, and he got booed off the mound.
Oh, it was an awful outing for him. Awful outing for him, but you want to look at his numbers. I mean, there's a reason why he's in that conversation. You can say, well, maybe a down year in the AL. You got a couple guys who got injured, kind of, fell on the wayside, and it's really just a two-horse race between him and Robbie Ray. The fact of the matter is he's right there.
I know he is. I would not personally vote for him. I personally would not.
You don't want to have the total recency bias of just him coming off an awful loss, and I get that's hard because at this time of the year, this is when they need you, but you really you need to look at the whole body of work. He's right there. I don't know if I'd vote for him either, but he is right there, and I think he would look at the more positives coming out of this season maybe than the negatives. 877-337-6666. So you heard from us. Want to hear from you. Do you hope that the Yankees miss the postseason? Like, to me, it just doesn't make a lot of sense. Got a lot on the docket today. We've got in studio one of our absolute favorites, Moose, Bryan Danielson, now with AEW.
12:30.
He's going to be at Arthur Ashe tomorrow, getting in the ring against Kenny Omega. He will be in studio coming up later on in the show.